So now we're going to talk a little bit about balayage. A lot of times when we do baby lights, or highlight retouch, we'll want to go in also in balayage and kind of tip out the hair in between. So what happens is over time, sometimes this gets a little yellowed, it gets, the colors change, and you want to brighten it up on the ends, especially if you're trying to create like a lighter hair to lightest hair look, so that you have that darker to medium to light blonde. So again, we've already gone in and done our touch up on our highlight foils. They're processing, and while they're processing, we can go in and do a balayage technique with some freehand techniques, and then that processes at the same time as the rest of the hair. So when I'm all done with my foils, sometimes I'll go in with clear color gels, clear fusion, but even clear chromatics is amazing, clear and 30. And I can go in and just freehand and touch this up. You can use a board, you can use a balayage paddle, or you can use the back of your hand. I'll show you two techniques now, and I'll also cover a basic balayage technique freehand on the whole back of the hair without foils. So again, the first part is baby lights and then balayage. So if you had some hair to go through, what I do is I just randomly pick up some pieces and I visually kind of figure out where I want to see that tip out. I'll hold the hair below horizontal, so I'm not way out here, way up there, and I'll use the back of my hand as my flat plane so I can get the product on the tips. And you can pick up like a few, you can go through and pick up the ends on a few sections. That way, you've got like that real organic look. So again, I use the back of my hand. And balayage in French means to sweep. So really when you're balayaging, you're creating that sweeping motion. It also means to paint. So to paint or to sweep. So this is a very visual technique. There is no exact technique to this. This is more like how much do you want to see of your lighter ends on zone 3 while your zone 1 is processing. So if you decide you want to do a couple more pieces, you can go through. Again, this is flash lift and 10 volume. It'll give it a brightness at the tips so that it gives her a really fresh look when she's done. So this is baby lights with balayage. Often when I'm doing my balayage in between my baby lights, if I feel like I don't want it to touch other hair, I'll create a cotton separation with a small piece of cotton so that you can have those dimensional pieces protected from shifting around or bothering any of the other colors. So if you have some low lights that you like and you want to leave them out and just balayage some pieces, just use a little piece of cotton. I prefer to put it lower on the hair rather than higher, because if you set it up higher up in the hair, it's harder to get out when you're at the shampoo bowl. So now I want to talk about a basic balayage technique. So for a long time, balayage was a natural looking sweeping of blonde hair. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and the technique of how to do that. Not necessarily what Americans have done with the French balayage technique, which is gone way out of proportion. So again, in America, we took something that was natural and beautiful and a sweeping, blonde look, and we did like struck by a lightning blonde on the ends and, level 2 roots. So again, that is not what this is. This is going to be your natural looking painting and balayage technique. So for most of us, we're going to want to take it probably from about middle of the back and up. Why? Why wouldn't you do all this underneath? Well, think of hair like a tablecloth sitting on a table. Everything from the top of the rotation of the head and above that is going to be what you see. You won't see any of this under here. So when her hair's down, you probably don't need to go through this, because number one, it's going to take a long time and a lot of work to create that, and it's unnecessary. It doesn't mean that you couldn't go through here and do a baby light and some foils underneath here to start. But for your basic balayage, here's basically what it looks like. You'll want to do a horizontal parting, or horizontal all the way across, and then your sectioning is going to be a triangle. Now, why a triangle? Well, if you take a regular foil sectioning, which is horizontal, you won't get that blend towards the bottom that you will get from this, and you'll see why in a minute. So again, the definition of balayage means to sweep or to paint hair. So what I'm going to do is use my Redken balayage brush, and I like this because it has a little bit of a roundness to it, and I can load a lot of product on it. So what I'll do is I'll take the section and I'm going to hold it pretty tight, and it's going to be below horizontal. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep the product on the hair. And I mean like really thick and heavy so that it doesn't have any chance to dry out. Because if it dries out, we know it stops working. I'm holding the tip of it, and I'm going to get back to that in a minute. But for now, I also want to think about the points of light. You're going to see the slide that demonstrates clearly about the points of light. So we're going to think about mentally when we're coloring our hair, do we want to do a V or a slant or a reverse slant or an upside down arrow? So on here, I think I'm going to work with the V. So again, I'm going to go through, sweeping motion, make sure I don't have any little parts that aren't smooth. And then when I get to zone 2 and 3, I'm going to want to do the top and the bottom. So again, on zone 1, I'm only working on the surface. On zone 2 and 3, I'm going to be working on the surface and the underneath. And by doing that triangle section, what happens is you get a beautiful blend after it's all washed and it comes down. And you've got that seamless look. I sometimes will also take my pinky with my glove and just kind of blend, do a little bit of a blend if I need to at the top. But basically that's how you're going to do a balayage section. You can take little pieces of cotton if you want and isolate your section before moving on to the next one. And I'll go across my horizontal parting, and my next section is, you guessed it, another triangle. Now I will tell you, if you take a large triangle section, you're probably going to get less blonde than if you take a couple of small triangle sections. So if you want a heavier blonde look, go ahead and take smaller triangle sections and go through and use, smaller areas. If you want more diffused, less blonde, take a larger section. That's why you see some people, they go in, they take the whole piece, right? But you'll get more saturation with this technique going across with multiple triangles. So with this one, I chose a slanted point of light. Isolate with my cotton, and then I'll go on to the next section. When I'm done with that area, I'll go up about 1 inch, 1 to 1.5 inches, or just enough to be able to go back through and take another triangle parting. I always start the application of the product in the middle of the strand. I don't like to start at the top. I like to work up to the top. So this one will have a slanted points of light. Go to the bottom. Work on zone 2 and 3 will be underneath as well. Make sure I have plenty of saturation. Use a pinky if you want. You can also use the balayage paddle if you don't want to use the back of your hand for some reason. A lot of people like the paddle because it's a little bit harder surface and you can get a nice sweep. Once your paddle, once you finish the ends, you just kind of slide the paddle away and be careful not to remove the color, right? A lot of times in balayage, when people are using their hands a lot and like moving it, they're actually wiping the product off. And so what we want to do is make sure that the product is staying on the hair. It's staying moist enough so that it'll really have an impact and enough lift. One point to remember when doing an open air technique is you're only going to get about 4 levels of lift. For people who need more levels of lift than that, if you want to really make that hair lighter or brighter or push it way up, you'll need to do like foliage, meaning you're going to go through, take your sections, right? Still do a triangle. You can foil it, or you can take it and you can put it in a foil. Same idea. So here, you'll see one example. I'm going to do what they call charge the foil on the bottom half, because you'll see here, because of the triangle section, I'll still practice my points of light, but on zone 2 and 3, or at the bottom of the hair, you're gonna get way more saturation and a lot more blonding. So this is just one technique of foliage, like balayage, but you'll get a lighter result because it's going to be inside a foil. So if you have any questions about other techniques, let me know. But this is basic balayage and then foliage in a foil. And if you're ready to demonstrate, then go for it. Grab a friend, a mannequin, or a client and video yourself demonstrating that you can do this. And we'll see you on the next one. Good luck to you.